Hi, my name is Aqeel Rahim, Director of Instruction at Golf Town Whitby and Golf Town Markham East. I'd like to take this opportunity today to make you a better ball striker. So, what do all the best ball strikers have in common? The first thing is they all maintain a square club face through the impact area. Number two, they all maintain their initial spine angle through impact. Number three, they all deliver the club back on plane. So let's start with that square club face angle. How are we going to achieve it? The first thing we need to realize is what keeps our club face square is the proper grip. So let's start with that. How do we take the proper grip? I want to place the club in my fingers on an angle, close my fingers, and bring my hand over. Once I do that, I'm going to see that the thumb crease, or what's called the V, is pointed towards my right ear. After doing this, I want you to just do a simple test of bringing the club up so that it's in line with your hand, and then extend your left arm straight out. After doing that, you should see that the leading edge of the club face is straight up and down, meaning that it's staying square. Watch what happens if I take the incorrect grip. If I have this grip too high up into my palm area, the V will now be pointed towards my chin. Although the club face appears square when I bring it up here, when I extend my left arm out, the club face will be open, which will cause the golf ball to go right unless I compensate. Watch what happens if I place the club too low in my fingers, and now the thumb crease goes outside of my right shoulder. When I bring the club up and extend it, the club face will be closed, and that will make the golf ball go to the left unless I compensate. So we see how essential it is to have the correct grip, which then maintains a square club face. So we now know how to maintain a square club face angle. So let's go over those other two aspects that all great ball strikers have in common. That is maintaining your spine angle and delivering the club on plane. So now we've set an angle of about 45 degrees here to match my spine angle, and we've also set an angle that matches the club shaft plane. The first thing we want to talk about is how do we maintain our body on that spine angle during our golf swing. And what I'd like to talk to you about is the key piece of information here in your rotation that will help you maintain that. What we're going to do is first get into a good posture that's going to help us stay in that 45 degrees. In order to achieve that, we're going to start from a straight up position, bend from our hip sockets, letting our rear end come out. We're then going to flex our knees slightly to a bounce where we feel like our feet are planted into the ground. Once we do that, we're just going to let our arms hang naturally from our body, and we should now be in the correct spine angle with the shaft plane pointing directly into our waist. Once we're in this position, how we're going to maintain the spine angle is by rotating our shoulders 90 degrees to that spine angle. So if I turn my shoulders 90 degrees to that spine angle, my body will maintain in that 45. If I turn my shoulders on too horizontal or too flat of an angle, my spine angle will lift, which will now force me to compensate back down, because if I don't, I'm going to top that golf ball. If we turn our shoulders too steep of an angle, or what we call too vertical, my spine angle drops towards the golf ball, and I'll now have to make a compensation through impact so that my club doesn't hit way behind the golf ball. So once again, at home, you can start with a mirror behind you, shaft across your shoulders, get into a good posture, and try rotating those shoulders 90 degrees to your initial spine angle, and try to unwind through the golf ball, maintaining that same 90-degree relationship of your shoulder plane to your spine angle. The next thing I'd like to talk about is how are we going to get this club to swing on plane and back down on plane. In order to do this, we must blend three things that we're going to be doing in our swing. And those three things are body rotation, wrist hinge, and extension, or what they call width. So once I set up in this position, in order to take the club on plane, I must turn, I must have a slight hinge in my wrists. As I keep hinging those wrists, you can see the club will now be parallel to the plane or slightly above it. To complete this backswing, all I have to do is complete my shoulder rotation where my back is going to be facing the target. This will now allow my left arm to also match that initial plane angle. Once I'm at this top of this backswing position, how do I start bringing the club down to deliver it back on plane? I must start with my lower body, and as I do so, my arms must drop in conjunction with it. As I do that, you can see the club is now coming back down the plane. And as long as I maintain that relationship and keep my wrist hinged, the club will be in the correct delivery position just prior to impact. This will allow me to release the club without any compensations through impact, which should then also allow the club to release back onto its plane. Once it does this, the club will finish right behind my ears, which will allow the club to swing on plane. So, just to recap, these two key angles are essential to striking the golf ball consistently without compensations. So once you get into your initial posture, maintaining a good spine angle and the proper plane, you want to swing the club up that angle, down that angle. In my 20 years of teaching this great game, the biggest flaw I see with recreational golfers is when they get up to the top of that backswing, they start to cast the club or release their wrists way too early on the downswing. Sometimes they're doing this with their hands, their arms, their shoulders. Basically what's going to happen when you do this is you're going to come over top of this swing plane on an angle that's way too steep, which is going to cause the club to chop into the ground unless you start to pull up. The two best tips I can give you to stop this casting motion is number one, relax your right hand grip pressure so those wrists can stay hinged coming down. The next thing I want you to do is don't try to hit the golf ball. Try to think of swinging to the target. If you do this correctly, you should be able to set up to the golf ball, relax your hands with a slight waggle. You should be able to close your eyes and make a golf swing to the target. And when you look up, you should see that the golf ball has gone to your target without you ever trying to hit it. This is Aqeel Rahim from Golf Town Whitby and Golf Town Markham East.